There's an age-old saying that goes something like this. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. Actually, it's not really an age-old saying. It was Jordan B. Peterson, and before he said it, there was another martial arts guy that said something similar. But anyway, I digress. Let's have a chat about Homelander. Heroes and villains, the age-old good versus bad. This is in the comic book world very black and white, at least from back in the day. But as society progressed, we started to realize that that's not always the ideal situation, or if anything, not even the realistic situation. Where back in the day, a lot of the heroes would have very, very classic good characteristics and not even a shred of bad. They were very idealistic and unrealistic, to be honest with you. And the villains would actually have the exact opposite. They would be completely cut and dry, evil, just the most maniacal persons and that you'll ever meet, really. But again, as society progressed, we start to realize the characters we love and hold dear to our hearts the most are the ones that actually portray more human characteristics. A sense of struggle, let's say, from good and bad. Like a characteristically good character can have some bad traits to them, which you display from time to time, and he tries to thwart it and he tries to cover that up, or whatever the case is, or she does. A classic case is someone like Sarah Connor, for example. She is the hero of the story, but boy did she have her struggles. She was totally a regular person by anybody's standards, a total fucking pleb like me or you, but then all of a sudden she was thrown a curveball of like epic proportions. This caused her to be way more edgy than a regular hero would be, and it gave everybody a sense that things are under panic mode for her all the time, and you're sort of always concerned for her well-being. But she always meant good in the end. She was almost like the OG female superhero of sorts, you know? Hashtag OG female superhero. Hashtag She-Hulk sucks. Hashtag fuck off Disney. Classic bad guy nowadays, especially the good ones that we all love, actually have some traits where we can understand what they're talking about and want to sort of relate in a way. A good example of this would be somebody like Thanos. When he's not teabagging and stomping adolescent children on Fortnite, he's doing some evil shit, but the thing is, the basis behind all of that actually made sense. Like, I mean, for example, I do feel like there's a lot of people on this planet, man. If I gotta take another subway ride, bumping shoulders with some nasty-ass people doing some nasty things, I don't know, I might feel like Thanos sometimes too. That's all I'm saying, alright? And by the way, the Thanos I'm talking about is the MCU Thanos and not like the comic book one, which is really close to the old school stuff, which is pure evil. So with that context, we're going to talk about Homelander and why I think in the world of the boys, which is very much actually mirrored off of our own current world, he's actually kind of the hero, or he could be the major hero in this plot.
See, Starlight, I'd prefer to be loved. I would. But if you take that away from me, well, being feared is A1 okie doke by me. Because I am the Homelander. And I really can do whatever the fuck I want.
Alright, that was pretty epic, I can't lie to you. Like, I remember the first time watching The Boys episode 1, it was very clear from the beginning that Homelander was just a badass and he was like not somebody to be fucked with, and he was completely loose on his rockers. He's like the quintessential supervillain of sorts. But here's the fucked up thing, I actually think he's the good guy, man. Like, in a world like The Boys, my whole argument is that why can't Homelander just be the hero? Think about it. If Huey and all the, the riffraff, the boys basically, if they decided to not fuck with them, if they decided to not follow Butcher, which really was a selfish metric, and we'll get to that in another point, but if they decided to just leave the status quo, only some people would have suffered. Homelander would have continued to serve as the hero, even though it would have cost some people like Madeline Stillwell and maybe even Stan Edgar, and all the marketing people, the people that really take the brunt of Homelander's aggression and insecurities. Those guys would have taken a massive hit in their immediate lives, and they might have been super stressed out. But at what cost? Homelander would have very largely kept the peace because he loved the general public. He loved that they were giving him so much love, and this was not disturbed until sort of, events occurred where the boys actually were a key part of that. It's a little thought experiment let's conduct, right? All I'm saying is, if these kind of things didn't transpire, for example, if you drop me or you into the boys universe, we would not understand or even have any idea of all the undercover, behind the scenes shit that Vought basically did to push their narrative, right? And really all they're trying to do is not really any different from what our current conglomerates and companies are doing right now, which is basically keep the population stupid and you have control. So I ask you, as somebody who really is sheltered, just like me, just like a lot of the general people from a lot of the stuff that companies do, we don't know shit, right? So do you really want to know? Do you want to know the truth? Because, obviously once people start to find out that Homelander was a really fucked up guy, people start to really revolt. And this scene perfectly exemplifies that.
You don't speak for us! You don't speak for us! You don't speak for us! You don't
Now, there's an argument that can be made, which is that later on, when he really started to come out and just say whatever was on his mind, people started, like, he started to gather a following. That's fine. You would be essentially trading the cost of a few lives for the general cost of the many, which I think for the most part, most people would make for sure. Especially when you have somebody as unstable as Homelander. And here's the messed up thing. Homelander's faults are actually very controllable, and it was pretty much under control for the large part of his life. It's really up until the point where the viewers, we start to sort of chime into his life, which is like, I mean, the way he looks, he's definitely, you know, late 30s, if not early 40s, right? So that's really when shit started to hit the fan. For his entire childhood and sort of adolescence and adulthood, for the most part, it was controlled, it was under control. So who's to say that Homelander isn't the good guy? He's been maintaining peace for decades, up until the boys came and basically decided to fuck things up for everybody, really. It's not just them. I would say it's a selfish endeavor. Now, keep in mind, society does this all the time. It's just not to people that are as powerful as someone like Homelander. When we see somebody that has a certain condition or whatever the case is, everyone always tries to sort of put them in a corner and barricade them around things so that they don't cause harm to people. In the case of Homelander, one would argue that the crime rate was dropping because of Homelander existing, pretty much. I mean, like, even the threat of him even existing deterred some people from committing crime, let's say. And I mean, one could argue, right, A-Train would have still got a heart condition because he would have continued to abuse the drugs that he was using, but Translucent would have still been alive, and he was the perv, right? He was the guy that was super edgy on the team. Although Homelander had that capability, he was under control. The worst thing you could have done in this situation is actually poke the hornet's nest and fuck things up with Homelander and how he feels about society. And a large catalyst of how he feels right now is thanks to Stormfront. And they would have never had to call her in if it wasn't for Homelander really deteriorating in his mental condition. Once he started knowing to dig for more things, all he really wanted was titty milk and subtle behind-the-scenes violence, all right? That's all he wanted. Give the man his titty milk, man. That's all he wants. No, but in reality, all he wanted was a little bit of attention. Clearly the one that he didn't get because he was raised in a lab and pretty much from a test tube. But, you know, one can sympathize with that, right? It's like if all he has to do is get this kind of really disgusting treatment and he's going to save countless amounts of lives, a realistic person would make that bet 9 times out of 10. That's why Homelander is such a good character in this whole story, right? Because a lot of it, you're like, holy shit, he's so fucked up. But you can understand, you're like, damn, like, that's gotta suck. Like, he's really just looking for some sort of a remnant or some sort of story for himself, but he can't build one because all he knows is what Vought has provided him, which is funny because that's exactly what the public knows. So in a lot of ways, the public are very similar and have that relationship with Homelander. He even has this exact kind of relationship with Butcher, and he brings it up when they meet. And we'll get into that in another video, but let me know what you think in the comment section below. I really think that Homelander could have been the hero, but then again, if we had that shit, we would not have the boys to watch. Instead, we would have shit like She-Hulk and all this other bullshit, which makes people want to jump out of a window. All right, until next time, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.